podcast with R&R.
Hello and welcome to the podcast with R&R. On this episode, which is a podcast special, we're going to pick up with our conversation that we recorded with Anna and Steve a little while ago, where we talked about Naturist information and Naturist Information Day. And today we're going to focus on the subject of working naked. Now, working naked can mean a lot of things. You know, it can be how the corporate business world and the business naturist world works naked, or how you as an individual can apply nudism or naturism to your working practices, be them a job from home, a meeting online, or even a hobby or DIY that you do around the house. So let's jump over to Anna and Steve and let's get into the conversation.
World Naked Day. I've got a web page up here that says it was founded in 2010. And it's created by an author and a businesswoman who'd written books including topics like home office organising and working from home. The website doesn't actually name her. So
I think a name. Gone.
Is it Lisa Canaric?
Something like that.
Lisa Canaric?
I think she was like a work guru in America, sort of thing, who encouraged people to. Basically, she was selling books. She put the world. She would put naked onto it. The idea that it would sell more books, which she probably did. Work naked. I think her initial. Although she was saying that you could actually, work naked, I think it was more like the idea that when you buy naked juice, it's not messed around with, and when you buy naked food, it's like it's not got lots of additives and stuff. I think it was that whole thing of making your workspace as naked as possible and being as naked as possible, but
stripping away and decluttering.
Yeah, and I think it was like using the word naked really as a selling point, but it's been taken up by naturists, and so we thought a naturist work day set on the same day, because people are already used to talking about it, was going to help make it easier. And we've done that with a few of the days, haven't we? Like naked hiking day already existed. I'm not sure. There was naked gardening day. So we thought it's foolish to. We want to encourage as many people as possible to talk about these days, and talk about naturism in these days. So to take some of these days that already exist in the calendar and have already been celebrated by this one for like 15 years now.
Just going down the site now, it doesn't look very naturist. It's like, think about a fresh coat of paint on your chair and things like that, improve your technology, get a better computer, stuff like that. So it's like, wear earphones. Why that's relevant, I've no idea.
Especially if you work on your own.
Yeah, I get it. If you're having like online chats and stuff, but if you're working alone, when I'm working up here, I do have the music on, because it helps me focus. But I don't wear earphones. Only late at night do I wear earphones. But most of the time, I've got some form. Recently, it's been baby metal. I got a big stack for my birthday of all the albums I haven't acquired yet. So I've been playing my way through that rather loud aspect of music. I've rather enjoyed it. It does help me focus. But
cool.
Being naked at home, because work naked day, apart from one program I saw on the BBC, I think most people, when they talk about working naked, they talk about working naked from home, aren't they? Because a lot of people spend time naked at home. A lot of non-naturists spend time naked at home. And apart from going online, I just did a quick run downstairs to order a coffee, but I'm well aware that Ren's got 32 people on a Zoom screen. So rather than just walk up to her and very quietly whisper, "Can you make me a quick brew?" and expose myself to 30 total random strangers, I'd be very prudent today and stay dressed. But working from home isn't just a job, is it?
No.
Because I mean, like we work in so many elements of life and art and creativity and gardening. It's quite normal for us to be cutting up wood, sawing wood, sanding wood, or digging the flower beds. And it's all a form of work. A hobby can be work. You know,
I mean, I was just remembering years and years ago. I don't know, in my early mid-20s, I had a headphone that I'd made my own. I bought some headphones and adapted it so the cable could run from my stereo all over my flat. So whenever I was in the flat, I could listen to music without being a disturbance to the people above and below me, and I guess to the sides as well. And that was basically I would get in the bath, I would iron, I would make dinner, I would do the vacuuming or whatever it was with these headphones on, and go and 90% of the time I would be naked. It's always a little bit warmer in London, and being in a flat as well, I was having heat from so I don't remember the winters being particularly cold, and so basically I would be vacuuming around the flat naked, cooking dinner naked, and that sort of thing, and I wasn't. I'm trying to think if that was before I'd ever been to a nature's beach or not, because I think it's an important thing, isn't it, for people to recognise, is that sort of like if you're taking those like little steps, if you enjoy being naked around the house and whatever it might be, whether you just find it easier to just vacuum naked or do the ironing naked or whatever, and just put your clothes on because you're now going out to go to work for the day. That why not take it a little bit further? Why not go to a beach? And I think that's one of the things that why we saw like World Work Naked Day is already an existing thing, and what we want to people is to think, okay, look, I know this day, and it's like, well, maybe I can have a look at what other ways I can enjoy being naked. I can enjoy naturism, because maybe there's a part of me that is a naturist. Because I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think naturism is within us all. It's not a minority interest. It's a majority interest. It's just getting people to think, well, if I enjoy it at home, if I enjoy going around vacuuming naked because it's just simpler and easier, and it doesn't, I'm not then going out with sweaty clothes or whatever on, then why not do that on the beach? Why not do that camping, and get people to just sort of like go a little bit further, just step a little bit further, because it is incredibly natural part of our want to be human. I think we don't always want to be lumbered with clothes, and that's goes back to the working thing. It's when the weather's nice, it's warm enough, or whatever. When we're sitting at the computer working, if you don't have those trousers that are digging into your waist, or the socks that are annoying your ankles, or
the sleeves that get in the way of the keyboard,
then you are able to function a little bit. You're just there, you just zone into that work, and just get on with it. And I think that if people can sort of harness that thing of it's really nice to just soak in a bath. It's really nice to actually be in the kitchen cooking. without clothes. And it's not a great step to think, well, actually, it's really nice to be out in the garden. Or it's really nice to be on the beach, because it is. It's not a massive step to consider the idea that if it's nice to lie in the warm bath naked, then it's also nice to lie in the warm sun on the sand naked. And maybe everyone should do this. Maybe everyone who hasn't tried Naturism should think, tomorrow I'm going to put on my swimsuit and have a bath and see, is that really nice? Do I actually feel I'm that comfortable? Because it's actually really annoying. And then to sort of like think, so why is it nicer in the sea? Why is it nicer in a swimming pool? Why is it nicer on the beach? And to just ponder over that, because I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, that's, I guess, what part of what this woman was saying when she created Work Naked Day is that if you're more comfortable, if you're more relaxed, if you're going to work better. But it's not just work, but it's life. It's everything just feels a little bit nicer.
Providing food for thought, isn't it?
Mm.
I think actually that's a really good statement for promoting naturism. Food for thought. Just plant the seeds to let people think. It's like one of the messages I like is "Bear as you dare," which is used for the World Naked Bike rides. Because "Bear as you dare" says you don't have to be naked, but you can go as close to that as you want. You know, and I think another aspect is that, especially if you're going to promote Working Naked Day, is point out the bad sides of clothes. I mean, I used to work in horticulture, which meant I was wearing steel-toe cap boots. I used to have protective gloves on. I had overalls, my overalls were a jacket and pants. I had a polo shirt on. Sometimes, you know, we used to wear sleeveless sort of over jackets, you know, if it was raining and stuff like that. And it was great in the winter because it protected us. But in the summer, when you turn up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a landscape job and you've got to remove 15 tons of soil in a wheelbarrow and the temperature's skyrocketing, you know, I used to take 4 t-shirts a day to work with me, because after I barrowed a load of topsoil, my t-shirt was so wet I could wring it out, so I then had to put another one on. One of the biggest joys, and again, it led into my naked life. One of my biggest joys was coming home from work and literally coming inside the door, and in my hall I used to strip. And because my clothes were so dirty and so wet, sweat. Because like when you're working in a heat wave, you still have to wear that protective gear. And I don't think there's a better advert for naturism than that. Just dress someone up in work gear and make them run around the block in the sun. They won't appreciate clothing after that. They really won't. And I literally, my routine was the same. I'd come in through the door, I'd strip naked, I'd walk to the washing machine, I'd put all my gear in the washer, and then I'd just chill out, have a brew, and while I was sipping my coffee, I'd then run a hot bath. And then I'd get in the hot bath, I'd get completely clean, and I would feel so fresh and alive. I was just like, I don't need to dress, because I lived on my own anyhow. I didn't need to dress. I didn't want to dress. I just wanted to enjoy, like, especially on the summer. I used to sit on my doorstep in the summer, just sit there naked on the doorstep and just enjoy the coolness of not being covered in these awful garments that were so heavy and so stained and so, you know, with sweat and stuff. And I think again that there's a message there for non-naturists. It's like, think how uncomfortable you are. I point this out to a lot of people, especially women who wear bras. That's the first thing they do when they come home is they whip the bra off. Why? Because that part of the clothing world doesn't suit them. They don't like it.
No.
I've never met a woman yet that likes wearing a bra.
No, they're terribly uncomfortable.
They're awful, aren't they?
And those underwired ones are
Yeah.
the worst of all, because they actually scar you. They leave you with like darker marks where the actual wire starts to dig in. And then when you stop using them, those dark marks remain for a long time. Yeah, terrible things.
I can't tell you how.
Why do they exist? Why is it that, I don't know what sort of percentage, but say 80% of women are out there wearing bras?
I get sports bras in the sense of, like, if you're running, because if you're running without a bra, you kind of naturally want to hold your boobs so they don't bounce. But yeah, I suppose that the other idea of bras is to hide your shape or hide your nipples under the clothing. But
which is just
that's another story.
Yes.
I
I do
originally-
remember you doing a
free the nipple?
no, taking part in a mother's race for the school's one of the school's sports days. And your boobs were sort of out of control as you were running along. It's quite funny. You know, it seemed like
Wow, hey.
you got to the end of the race, but your boobs kept going for a while.
The momentum didn't die down immediately.
But yeah, and you know, there is that sort of that thing of uniform, isn't there? Of you've got to you have to. It's expected you wear a bra. It's expected you go to work in a suit and tie or whatever. And I think that's happening less now, isn't it? I think more people are more they've gone from casual formal to then just casual to then just wearing anything. I think at a lot of workplaces it seems, but there is that thing, isn't it? If you're working at home, you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry about that aspect of things. And I think that's part of the attraction during COVID was that freedom, where people were feeling quite pent up. People were feeling really pinned in, literally in their houses, but also that fear at the time where they didn't really know what was going to happen, whether you know the human race was going to end up being wiped out or whatever. And I think they quite enjoyed that sort of desert island effect of I can just strip off and just be without clothes, just as if I was, you know, shipwrecked. And I think it shows that really what an instinctive, natural aspect of life naturism it is, that when you don't have to tick boxes, when you're not asked to conform, then you do go towards something more natural. You go towards something more instinctive. You just think, I want to be naked, and I think that's something that we don't really appreciate enough. That really, when push comes to shove, there's a big part of us that wants to be naked, and a lot of what holds us back is that fear, that concern of other people seeing of us. What will other people think? How will people judge us? If I walk around and people can see that I haven't got a bra on, will that they say, oh goodness me, what sort of woman is that? That you know, and I think if we had this thing where it's like, well, tomorrow the world's going to end, 100% definite, world's going to blow up. The last thing anyone's going to do is think, I care what people think of me. And I think the vast majority of people, if it was nice weather, would think, hang it, I'm gonna not wear clothes. I'm gonna go out and I'm just gonna walk around naked.
We've seen that though, haven't we? And that's actually the positives that came out of COVID. People understood how horrible business suits are. Women embraced the liberty of not having to wear a bra at home. And 2020 and 21, more people sunbathed naked in Britain. So much so, it became the fastest growing summer trend. So people saw it. I think to a degree, what we failed to do is capitalise on that liberty. We did see a surge in VN in their numbers over that year and the year after it, but I think through 22, 23, that's faded down a little bit. It's a shame that idea couldn't have been carried on, pointing out that, because that's what drove that. It was hatred of clothing that drove that. It wasn't messages from Naturism.
No.
You know, it was like, I hate my business suit. I hate my bra. You know, I want to be free in the garden. Because, yeah, there was that fear of that. I mean, everybody went through that awful time of fear. And that brought out the liberty and the freedom in people. And we really should have kept it. VN should have gone into the hundreds of thousands when you consider how many people were actually stripping off and enjoying life at home. You know, and it's like, like one thing we have seen as a reoccurrence of that is young women have started protesting and not wearing bras at work. You know, because they've gone with the kind of more wokery side of things. It's like, you've no right to sexualize me. So if my nipples show, that's none of your business. And they've because of that freedom of 2020, they've jumped on that pumpkin. And all right, they've given it a kind of like sexual sort of unwarranted attention twist. But it has actually worked to the positive of young women in the workplace. Workplaces now have to consider, should wearing bras be enforced as much as it is? And a lot of companies have relaxed their policies because of it. So there's a good step forward there. But again, Naturism's not picked up on that. You know, I think Anna, I think it was you who wrote the article about get rid of the bra, where you brought in a lot of the information from the French scientist team that spent 20 years researching it. And again, it shows
it for you, and it's likely to cut risk of cancer as well, and how your boobs would support themselves, you know, because they use wearing a bra as being a reason because it's supportive to the muscles, but your muscles grow stronger, so they're able to support themselves.
Yeah.
It's like a walking stick. You use a walking stick long enough, and you're going to rely on
it.
Yeah. You know, like when you think about people like coma patients, as soon as if they come out of a coma, they then have to go through 6 months of rehabilitation to literally rebuild their bodies, you know, because they've not used the muscles, and that it's the same thing with the bra. It lifts and supports the breasts so that the muscles underneath weaken. It weakens them. I mean, one of the greatest things I think we've done as parents is we've raised our daughter to not worry about them. She wears little little short sports type vest tops.
Yeah.
With there's no wires and they're not that supportive. But she won't wear a bra. You know, I mean, she's been raised by a mother who doesn't. So I think that's a positive. But you know, she highlights often the troubles her friends are having because of their bras. So you see, there's capitalization there for naturists about working from home and say, well, why wear clothes? You hate them in the office. Well, why are you wearing them at home? You know.
And I think, you know, I mean, looking back to my own childhood, I was always naked. If I had the house to myself, I was always naked. It was just a thing. I don't know. I'm not sure why, other than the fact it was just more comfortable. I think that's what it just boiled down to. It was just more comfortable. So, you know, my mum and dad were at work during the school holidays. It was just great to just sort of think, I don't have to get dressed. I can just mooch around today, you know, watching television, making my lunch, reading a book, whatever, and just not worry about getting dressed. And I think to a certain extent that was another thing that was going on in people's minds in COVID, that suddenly they were having, it was like school holidays. They may have had to work, but they were at home, and they had that sort of like irresponsibility of, you know, it's like
Freedom.
Freedom. So what can I do? I know, I don't need to wear clothes. And it's a real part of what people actually want. But they don't talk about it, and they don't promote it enough. And it's something we're you know, I think, is next month the environmental World Aware? Well, I think it's something we're going to be bringing in, you know, more in next month's thing. Is this thing of the effect it has on the environment, that clothes are just not a good thing. And, you know, as you've written in an article before and stuff like that, and it's, you know, but you know, we won't get into it too much now, but there is this thing of, we really need to harness that thing of cutting back of the amount of clothes you wear, cutting back of the amount of clothes you need, cutting back of the amount of time you can actually be naked. And encouraging people to think, you know, I don't need to spend £90 on a bikini this year. I can just go to the beach and be naked. And because I think it is that thing. I mean, I've said in the past, haven't I? It's this idea that if when you have films and people are on ship, you know, the desert islands have been shipwrecked, and they're going around in clothes that are half, you know, they're falling to pieces.
Yeah.
It's like, but they wouldn't. First thing they would do is think to themselves, I don't need to have clothes on because I'm not in society. Society is not going to judge me. I'm free, and so why not just enjoy it? Make the most of the fact that I'm in this situation. Stick my clothes in a pile. I've got them for if I ever get picked up, and enjoy swimming and going around this desert island and this wonder, because it's all, they never get put on desert. You know, you watch these films, they never get put on islands that aren't beautiful. They're always shipwrecked on the most perfect, beautiful
really
beach
stunning.
in the world. You've got wonderful palm trees, you've got wonderful views, and you're going around
in banana skins.
You just wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. Lord of the Flies. Those kids would have stripped off. You know,
I mean, when you look at modern desert islands today, you could probably land on one and build yourself a house out of empty bottles. You know, there's so many ways up on the beaches. Survival now would be so much easier. The amount of resources that you find washed up on beaches. I mean, you can guarantee within half an hour you'll have at least 4 pairs of flip-flops. You know, you'll have no problems walking. But yeah, I mean, this idea of freedom, I think, is inherent in the DNA of people, and especially because the world does feel now like it's becoming. You know, I'm not going to mention the current leader of our nation, but I mean, you know, he's got Stalin stamped all over him. I mean, really, some of the draconian things they're bringing out, people are feeling kind of insecure now because they feel like the freedom's being taken away. Now, if you're someone like me who grew up in the 1970s. And we were really into freedom, you know. I mean, we changed the world. When you look at the world today, because I think the world today has become very, very restrictive. And one of my joys of summer is that I will get up, I'll have a coffee, grab my laptop, and I'll just go out into the garden. I don't dress. I just coffee and the laptop, and I sit out in the garden in the beautiful weather. And it doesn't need to be sunny as long as it's warm. And just be able to wander in and out and never worry about being seen. It's the best. Working naked is superb. Me and Ren sit out quite a lot, you know, because we've got the seats and the little table out there, and we have our laptop set up out there, and it's wonderful. You know, just to have that ultimate freedom. Yeah, and we see it in our blogs. We see the envy. Because people are like, we really wish we had a garden. We really wish we could do that. You're so lucky. These are the kind of comments we get. So you can see it's there. It's there in people. And you've got to ask yourself how many of the dress public would feel the same way if they read those blogs. You know, the ability to actually conduct business. The only time we have to put anything on is when we're on a video call for business, which we tend to try and avoid those because we run everything online and use email or WhatsApp. WhatsApp's a really great communication platform for doing business, you know, and then that way we have very, very few Zoom calls. And it's great. It was great being out in the garden during the summer and doing an A&W live first thing in the morning, because I mean, our garden is so beautiful first thing in the morning. To actually sit in that and talk to the world of naturism, you know, and then as soon as that was over, just pull up the latest document and start editing. You know, it's fantastic feeling.
I mean, one of the things we thought about when we were buying our house in Spain, and but also our house in Cornwall, and also here is a certain amount of privacy, as much privacy as possible, and.
It's a bit difficult when you have a neighbour that gets his ladder out when he hears you in the garden.
Yeah, but that didn't help. We bought a garden that was specifically private, and then the guy would get his ladder up to come over the fence and say, "How do you do that?" And you know, it's like, well, but it's sad, isn't it, that we have to consider that. We have to consider that privacy, that we can't just think it's out, but it's our garden, you know. And strictly speaking, we can, but there is that sort of thing of like, you know, you're always going back to that whole fear of offence and reaction and stuff like that. You know, going out without a bra, you know, do you get looks? You know, not shaving your legs, do you get looks? Going out in your garden naked, do you get looks? Are you going to get complaints? All of that sort of stuff. That we have to sort of like think about, and it is incredibly sad, and we are becoming more judgmental as a nation, maybe as a world. We are becoming more restrictive, politically, socially, whatever. That you just feel like it's all just getting a little bit too close for comfort. And it's really sad, because really we should be thinking to ourselves, in some ways. The world should be becoming much more accepting, liberal, yeah. And in some ways it is. In some ways it's far too liberal. You know, it's like, you know, when you see some of the things that people share on the internet, it's like, my goodness me, that's far too liberal. But you know, but there is that, and I think people working from home, it's a shame that people have to say. They can't say to their bosses, look, you know, I work from home naked. If I do a Zoom meet, does that matter? Because at the end of the day, you're only going to see me from the shoulders up anyway.
Well, this is kind of like that idea we were playing with our last members blog. Are we overtly tolerant? You know, and I think we are as naturists, and again, there's this fear of being fired. I think there's this fear of offending your boss when you're on a Zoom meeting. I mean, you see it on A&W, you see a lot of them say, oh, well, I put a shirt on for the meeting and then take it off again afterwards. And I think naturists are overtly respectful. And sometimes it makes me ponder, should we really be putting up with this? Shouldn't we be standing up for ourselves more? You know, because I mean, like, if you go into a business, doesn't matter what your gender is or you identify as, doesn't matter what kind of sex you're into. You know, it doesn't matter what your political leanings are. None of those are relevant when it comes to your job. Your boss is forced to accept all of those. So why can't naturism be on that spectrum? I mean, if you're only being shown from the waist up anyhow, which most people are on a meeting, you know, apart from Dale, who's like on his walking machine.
But then you see, Dale has been pulled over the hot coals for doing that on Naturist live meets, not on ours, but on other Naturist live meets. It's like, where are they coming from? You know, and so like saying from now on, you know, these meets people can only be seen from the shoulders up or whatever. It's like, what? It's beggars belief.
I know. I mean, you kind of, it's kind of odd in a way that we're naturists who are literally stripped of everything, doing whatever we do, because naturists do pretty much the same people as the clothes people. We just do it naked. And yet when you go on a meeting, there's all these corporate rules. It's like face shots only. And it's like, you know, because they seem that's offensive. But if they think that's offensive, what about playing volleyball? Or petang, is it? Miniton. You know, is that not offensive then? I find it ridiculous. We've got so many rules on one side and no rules on the other.
When you were talking about going to, talking about sort of like people going on these Zoom meets and they put their top on and for the meet, and then they take it off again straight away afterwards. And I was thinking about Stalag 17 and where the German. I'm trying to think now. It might have been also Premiership. Is struggling. He's on the phone and he's struggling all the way through the phone call to put some boots on, and then at the end of the phone call he clicks his boot heels together to sort of like to say goodbye to his superior, and then after that he's struggling to then get his boots off again. So that these boots were only put on just for the click of the heels at the end of the salute, and it is that interesting thing, isn't it? Like the purpose of clothes beyond any sort of like reason.
Yeah.
That we do have this thing of like we have to wear this top because we are on the Zoom meet, and as soon as we're off it, it's coming off. And like the boys when we lived in Spain. They'd go to school, and then when we brought them back from school, they would be running away from the car. Clothes just ended up in the hedges, and in our hedge and everywhere, didn't they? And they'd run, and they'd quite often they'd just jump in the shower at the outside shower, and then jump in the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. And then we'd be going around picking up their clothes after them. Oh yeah, absolutely different. But there is that thing of escape, the clothes that you want to escape clothes. That there is a certain amount of
it's signalised
straight jackets about clothing.
Yeah.
There was a thing on Twitter yesterday which showed behind the desk of newscasters from all around the world, and like especially in the hot countries, you'd see these people sat in like Daisy Duke shorts, but they've got this beautiful blouse on.
Yes.
They look right for the TV, and then as soon as the transmission ended, they'd be like off with the blouse and they're just in a vest, and they'd be running across the studio and just standing in front of the fans to cool down. So it plays into that idea of, for business, you have to look a certain way. And this concept of you can do business naked, it's kind of revolutionary. And I think that really is what drove the trend in 2020. It's a revolutionary idea that, again, like you said earlier, that embracing of freedom, and that need to be unconstrained and finally let out the cage. Because a lot of work life is like going into a cage. I was forced to wear equipment I never liked. When you're spraying chemicals, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You've got rubber suits on.
It makes sense when it's protective and it's there to protect you. But
when you do that in the middle of summer, say you've got like aphids or so forth attack, and you've got to go and spray all the roses or the climbers and thing, and you've got this white suit on with this hat that's just around your face, and a big breathing mask, big boots like wellies, and big thick gloves, and you big weight on your back because you've got your pump sprayer. Oh, it's awful. It's awful. You could lose a stone just walking around the garden centre. I mean, I used to work at a 3-acre garden centre, and I used to do the spraying. By the time you've done one day of spraying, you're exhausted. You're cooked.
Yeah, you're saying not to mention the sweating whilst also, all of that weight.
Just feeling it running down your back all day, and you can't scratch because you've got a pack on. So it's that idea of not having to do that idea of being free to be yourself, and actually just sit and do your ordinary everyday work. See, I understand that because I do that. When the weather gets warmer, I barely wear clothing, because at the moment it's heading there. I'm really getting excited because I'm itchy all the time. This is my weapon. I'm constantly
a fan scratcher.
Yeah, because the nylon fibers irritate my skin, so I'm constantly scratching. And I love it. I love the fact that I can just get out of bed, stay naked all day, not have to worry, and do, you know, be it's editing or be it advertising, promoting, whatever. I can just do it all from either the desk or the garden, depending on the weather. And I think the idea of that freedom, I love that freedom. That drives my naturism even more. You know, that intensifies the passion. That connects me more with me and with the world. And so I can understand why 2020 and 2021 people were kind of revolting against business practice. But saying that, you know, when we're out in the garden working on projects, Rim won't wear clothes if she's standing. You know, she hates it. When we get the big belt standards out.
I think we over worry. I think, you know, I mean, yeah, we do have things that aren't natural that we have introduced into our world. So you know, if when we used to strim, we used to have a big sort of like
kind of
strimmer, and our land in Spain was covered in stones and stuff like that, and you'd basically, if there was any part of your body that was showing, you'd get hit in it.
Yeah.
You know,
you'd be whipped.
I mean.
So to be
particularly like your eyes and things, it was scary. I mean, I remember watching you streaming, and you sort of like, you look naked from behind, and then you turn around and you were completely and utterly in some sort of armor from the front. But I think we do worry too much. I think we are, because I mean, I found that I'm much more aware of what I'm doing when I'm naked. If I'm using a drill or if I'm using a saw or whatever, I'm much less likely to cut myself. Not because I'm more timid, but because I'm just more zoned into what I'm doing and where my body parts are and stuff. And so I think you know, we're tougher than we give ourselves credit for. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager and I'd go on holiday and I'd insist on walking around with no shoes on my feet as well. And the first day or whatever, you'd think, oh gosh, this tarmac's hot. But after a day, you get used to the heat, and you get used to how hard it is. The ground is. So I think we are tougher than we give ourselves credit for. But it is very sensible to take precautions. I mean, but you don't need. I mean, I would like. I've been working in the garden with just a heavy pair of boots on to dig, and that's what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Or I've been doing some sort of cutting work where there's bits that, you know, and I've just got goggles on, and that's what I'm wearing. And you can think to yourself, when you wear clothes and you get hit by something, it still cuts you, and you probably ruin your clothes as well. And you can be fully dressed and then bend down and get a stick in your eye. You know,
Yeah.
so you and mosquitoes always bite your ankles. You know, they don't come and bite you back. It doesn't matter whether you're naked or not; they always bite your ankles. So it is something that you do have to be sensible, especially as nowadays. You know, it's like, yes, naturally we could be able to deal with that. We used to be able to deal with going around in the countryside or whatever naked, but we also have introduced things that are pretty dangerous, like circular saws and stuff. So, like, you know, I completely sympathise with Lynn doing sanding. I think I would definitely do it naked, because you can just then jump in the shower afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking the other day, what jobs make sense? You know, if you were to go to somewhere, and having your haircut naked makes sense. Take your clothes off when you come into the hairdressers, have your haircut, have a shower before you get to leave, and then put your clothes back on and go. Because you get hair in your clothes, and it comes out.
Decorator.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, we cut each other's hair, don't we? And have done ever since we've known each other, and we always do it naked. And you do, if you forget and you you have a t-shirt on, you wash it, it's still got the hair in it. The next time you put it on, it's like it's itching your back, and it's like, what? Oh yeah, I wore it when I had my haircut.
I was looking at your blog just before we came on your Work Nude from Home blog, and one of the things I really love about this is that you show every aspect of life, because there are tasks we do every day which could be considered working tasks. I mean, for running myself, every moment we're awake, we're working, because the creativity of the business that we run never switches off. It's been kind of weird the last few weeks with it being on this training course, because usually I have her running in and out all day, bothering me about the latest crazy ideas she's had, and it's been kind of quiet. I've missed her. Missed her during the day, because like the second desk has been empty for a week because she's working downstairs so as not to interfere with me, because she's online all day talking backwards and forwards. Although when I walk through the living room, it's like she's talking a different language because I don't understand any of the conversations. I can't even jump in and make a comment, you know, just to ease my loneliness, because I'm like, I have no idea what she's talking about. But you know, it's like every aspect of our life is some form of work. We're either working for our business or working, yeah, child minding. I mean, you know. I mean, the kids kind of raise themselves a little bit better now because they're getting older, but working in the garden, we've always got a project on, working on the house, you know, and it's like, yeah, that involves power tools, paint, you know, varnish, spades, shovels, sanding, building things, erecting fences and so forth. It's all work, and it's all better done naked. You know, we put a new fence up last September? No, actually, it was a year ago now. We put a fence up a year ago just in front of the back door. We took the old one down and replaced it with a brand new one. And it was like a late September now. There was a bit of a chill in the air, but these panels were quite heavy. And I started off wearing shorts and a tee, and by the time I'd finished, I was sweating so much, I was naked, and I actually really enjoyed doing it naked. It was so much better because my body was aware of everything. I love the fact that when you kneel down to saw, you can feel the ground on your knees. You know, that barrier's gone. You're actually connecting with what you're working on. Or if you kneel on a piece of wood when you're sawing it, you know, you're connecting with the wood. And I do think there's a much deeper, maybe a psychological connection with everything when you're working naked. Maybe you enjoy your job more. I mean, let's be honest, most people hate their jobs. You know, maybe if they were all sat in an office surrounded by beautiful green plants and they were all naked, they'd probably enjoy their work. We certainly know that productivity goes up, because the BBC did a documentary on it. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where they planned to work naked, and at the end of the week, not everybody, they had one day at the end of the week where it was going to be work naked day, and I think half the cast naked and the other half weren't. But those that were more productive that day.
Yeah.
You know, so it's there.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think it's the same program. I remember watching something of that kind, and I think so. It was probably the same program. But yeah, I mean, it's and you make those connections with your work and with the people and stuff as well, don't you? And I think, like you say about the bonding, with whether you know what's soaring or whatever in the ground and stuff like that, and you're making that connection with your work. But isn't that, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because that's sort of how Naturism works with each other. We are, you know, as a matrix couple, we remove those barriers and we make that connection. We make a stronger connection. There's less.
There's more openness.
Yeah. And so why wouldn't that work with other things that you're doing, whether that's cooking or whether it's office work, or whether it's ironing or whatever? You know, why place barriers in between? And I think that's the big thing about clothing, is that it is really an armor. It's and what's protecting yourself. It's barriers. It's barriers.
I think if you did like a social experiment where you took a company, like an office situation, and you gave everyone a number, then on a set day, all the even numbers had to come in naked and all the odd numbers had to come in dressed, and sit the people down to work, I wonder who they would interact with most. Would they want to interact more with a naked person because their level of trust would rise? Or would they stick to their old ways and only interact with dressed people? I think that'd be a really interesting psychological sort of social experiment to do, because I would hedge my bets to say that your relationships with the naked people would deepen more during that day than it would with the dressed people.
Yeah.
I think actually the dressed people you'd probably leave feeling less inclined to be friends with those people. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, it would, and you know, it'd be interesting to also do things like if you were open to the public, say like you were an estate agent and you had two desks and one person at the desk is naked and the other one's dressed, and people come in from the street to talk to them, to ask them about, have you got any bungalows for sale or whatever, which one they would go towards.
Yeah.
And
there was an article about 3 days ago that I read about a young woman who was interviewed for a Naturist club. So she applied for a job. I can't remember what the job was now. I think it was cleaner or something like that, anyway, around the offices. But she was made aware right from the very start that there would be naked people in the environment because it was a Naturist venue. She turned up for the interview dressed, and two of the people interviewing her were naked. And she had absolutely no issues with it. She walked around the site. It was filled with naked people. She thought it was wonderful. She thought it was fantastic. But at the end of the interview, she decided to decline the job simply because her confidence and how she felt about herself wasn't positive enough for her to work naked in that environment. Even though she was given the thinking that she could work naked or she could work in a sarong, but her body negativity scale was so high, she decided to decline from the position and not do the job. She left the interview, and eventually they brought somebody naked on.
It's very sad, isn't it? It's very tragic that people's views of themselves have that, make that, and without even thinking about it, I've just suddenly realised that I used to feel that way. That we do have these limitations that we put on ourselves. We have these restrictions. We have these doubts or hatred, and it is such a shame. Yeah. It's such a shame that we carry those through, that we couldn't just sort of like not, Friday we're going to have a naked day at work. Everyone come into the office, the idea that it's going to be naked. I mean, what percentage of people would be able to deal with that? And then you'd have that worry of like, oh God, I'm not going to get naked in front of Pervy Jet over there, or he's always eyeing me up or whatever. And there's all these connotations in there. And then that nowadays, where you have to watch your P's and Q's so much that it's almost impossible to talk to people. You couldn't sort of like say to someone, you're looking lovely today, without sort of saying, no, I'm being sexually harassed. And so there's all these elements, isn't there? But it'd be lovely. It'd be lovely if we lived in a world where you could just say, does it matter? There's just let's have a bonding session. That as you might do, taking people out to a paintball, say, yeah. or a Christmas do. We're going to have a naked day at work, as a way of just another way of connecting.
I just thought then I wouldn't like to do paintballing naked.
No,
it might hurt.
Oh, that'd be painful.
I think this is something. Going back to the lady that was interviewed, that is another aspect of nature that we maybe should be pushed a little bit more, and we've mentioned it in the article, is that there are people that actually work within naturism. That we ourselves we work within Naturism. We work within Naturism 365 days a year, all the time. And we're not always naked, but we are working within Naturism. And,
yes, I get up in the morning and I go and make the boys' lunch boxes, and I hear Steve upstairs tap 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 tap,
or vice versa.
Vice versa. So yeah.
And the same in the evening, and the same during the and then during whilst the boys are at school. And there's always one of us. We take it. Some days I'll be making dinner. Sometimes Annie will be making dinner. Sometimes I'll be working with the boys on their homework. Sometimes you will. And there's always one of us that's always working on this.
Well, it's the same with men, right?
Yeah. But it's an industry. Naturism is an industry, and I think it needs to be, going back to what we were saying, in the information there about sharing. One of the things that maybe we should be thinking about is sharing the idea that actually there is an industry here. There are magazines, there are books, there are organisations, there are clubs, there are resorts, there are spas, there are hotels.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of work and a lot of money in Naturism. There send some of that money our way, please. There is a lot of money within Naturism that is being spent on people going on holidays and people going to events and stuff, and people are working within Naturism. And I think Naturist Workday, it's not just about working naked, but it's also about working in Naturism and recognizing the fact that it's a multi-million-pound industry. The naturist tourism industry is big money, and the more we are happy to talk about that and promote that and speak about that, the more we can get people thinking, well, wait a minute, this can only exist because there are naturists out there that are booking these holidays.
Yeah.
And the naturists out there booking those holidays may be reluctant to say I'm going on a naturist holiday, but if Naturism itself or the venues or whatever said, look, I'm a hotel and I'm booked up all year long. I'm a club and we have a 5-year membership, waiting list on our membership, or and make people sort of like think, because there are a lot of people that are partaking in Naturism in one way or another. And it is creating jobs, and any other industry that was creating jobs would be more vocal about it and be more encouraging about the fact that there are people that work within Naturism, and because it's a sign of acceptability, it's a sign of existence, it's a sign of the fact that it isn't just a ragtag bunch of oddballs that are meeting in a field in the middle of nowhere once a year. It is many thousands of people in countries all over the world that are buying into this.
It's more than thousands, because just look at Europe. It's estimated that there's 50 million naturists in Europe.
And they wouldn't. You pay over the odds. So if you're going to it, I mean, we when we were looking at the campsites last year, going to France, and we could have saved a fortune going to a better campsite, an easier to get to campsite, a campsite with more facilities, a campsite that was just as close to the sea, with bigger pools and that sort of thing, and it was considered, what was it, a third of the price or something? Yeah, and it was like, why is that? Why is it that the naturist campsite we went to is able to charge so much more over the odds
and closer to the ferry?
It's not because it has to make the payments count. It's because it's turning people away, so it can afford to charge more because it's turning people away. It's already full, so why not add up? Why not put the price up? So the need is there.
That service.
Yeah. So and I think it's like it's like on the inside back page or wherever it is on H&E where it's like the big new cruise or whatever it's called, sold out for 2025, booked for 2026 or something like that, and it's like it's selling out. It's got no spaces left because naturism is actually there. It's working.
Yeah,
People are buying into it.
It's thriving. It's a massive industry.
And yet we're afraid to talk about it, and yet we're hiding it.
Yeah,
And why aren't people saying, look, these clubs, when they're being bought out by someone else, saying, look, yeah, but you can buy it and turn it into a clothing campsite, but I think you'd be foolish because we've got a niche market and we charge more, and maybe it's something you should consider, that you shouldn't be closing these campsites down. You should be thinking about the fact that you could you could make good money there, and maybe if you're not into it, maybe we should just sell it to someone who is.
Because they've got a clientele as well.
Yeah.
If they've got a customer
They've got
base.
regular customers that come back every year.
Yeah.
I think we could sit behind the desk, and one of us could always be working on AWS, the other one's going off and cleaning the loos or whatever, and it'd be wonderful. No, it's true. It's a shame, isn't it? We do have that thing. It's and it's something we carry through all the time. That aspect of strange balance between everyone wants to be naked, really, and yet they're afraid to be. And so when they can, they will. They strip off and work naked, during COVID and that sort of thing, and they relish it. And yet they're not very comfortable about taking it further. That these naturist businesses are, happening, and there is a huge industry, and yet it still hides that we're almost encouraged to hide. We're encouraged to be fearful, and we've got the balance wrong. We've got the balance wrong, and that's why we have these 5 days of naturism to open up these ways of talking about it. Working naked, naturist work. It's two sides of the same coin, really. That we need to sort of like embrace and encourage, and so this is really what we're trying to do, isn't it? We're trying to get people to think, stretch your naturism a little bit.
As we've said many times, the problem with naturism is naturists. I mean, if you saw with H&E a few months back, the companies were complaining that some of them had struggled through the cost of living crisis. And then you look at where they're advertising, and they're all advertising inside naturism, and they're not advertising outside naturism. So the first thing that anyone who's running a business knows is you appeal to your core body, and then you work on appearing to people who are not your core, to bring them in, because you need to constantly circulate people through your business. You're always looking for new customers. Naturism stopped doing that. It's again preaching to the converted, which is great, but I mean, there's only so many people, and we've got an aging demographic within naturism. Some of those aging people are falling out of the loop now. They're not doing as many holidays as they did. So
it's not helped that we're missing out on the whole family thing. Families. It doesn't help at all, because the vast majority of the people that aren't in that aging demographic are going to be within families.
Yeah, I mean, I think families have actually suffered more than anything else, because of this kind of hidden internal let's hide and not share with the public. This fear of talking about families is ridiculous. I can't tell you how many screenshots I've got of being told shut up about families. But we should be doing the opposite. We should be showing it. I mean, because if we're not showing it, how are the public ever going to How are they ever going to learn? Why aren't naturist facilities putting on more child activities, more child facilities? That's where the money is. Because not only do you bring your children into naturism, those children grow up within naturism. So when they get families, their children come up in naturism. And that's the process of it. That's how it keeps going.
Yeah.
If you're a club that caters to, I mean, like, we were so disappointed in 22. We couldn't find anywhere that had any decent facilities. Oh, yeah, they were advertising as family friendly, but that just means, oh, well, you can come. There was nothing for the kids to do. So alternatively, we didn't do it.
When we first came back to England, and we sent out, I can't remember now, 50 emails to various clubs around the country, asking them when the best time to bring our children would be, because we want our children to be around some, more naturist children, because we're not seeing any families and stuff on the beach and things, and we got one email back, and that email came back saying that we don't really ever have children coming, we don't really ever have families coming, but it was at least it acknowledged us, and all the others just blanked us completely. We just got in touch as a, not through NW, not as a naturist family, but just as a couple with a couple of children that wanted to come and bring their children on holiday, and we were just completely and utterly ignored. And you have to wonder, where the logic is in that. And I think this, because we've talked about working naked, we've talked about working within naturism, but we've also got to think we've got to work for naturism.
Yeah.
And AMW, Anna and I, and members of the site are working for naturism. We're working for naturism every day. We're trying to push naturism, and that is what we have to think. This is what these clubs, venues, event organisers, national bodies and stuff, what they should be thinking of is part of what they're doing is working for naturism, working to promote naturism to the entire world, working on behalf of naturism, and I think that's really important. It's really important that we consider that our naturist work is our work for naturism. We are all out there promoting it. We are all out there selling it. We are all out there encouraging it, and we're all working on the same, in the same direction, to encourage everyone to want to be a naturist.
I think that's the one message that we gave when we wrote the final blog for Lamos and the final blog for Summer Camp, because we're kind of bright and cheerful and kind of crazy, and we've been recognised for that. But when we went into Holkin, we had no idea how to do it, none at all. I mean, we went in blind. We probably did bite off more than we could chew. But we pulled off this camp, and the message that we left after Lamas was, this is the job of every single naturist. And I'll never forget the line I used was like, national events are for national organisations, and yes, they're the best placed people to do it. But local events, national organisations shouldn't be doing. Local naturists should be doing it. Because the first thing we did when we headed into Wales, because again, we live in Manchester, we live 100 miles away from Holkin. We found all the locals who were naturists, and we brought them together, and then we talked to them. That's how we got in touch with Oz. Oz knew the landscape because he walked it, and so we found out everything we needed to know about that locality, and then use those people to pull equipment and people and promotions in from them. I mean, like, we leaflet dropped, I don't know how many butty bars, I don't know how many coffee shops. Because we actually asked them, would they deliver coffee? Would they deliver sandwiches for breakfast? And it's amazing. And, there was a lot who wanted to, but that got snuffed by a slightly higher up than us person. And I still think it was the biggest mistake ever, because that would have brought the local community into Holkin. And that would have made it good. But local naturists, I mean, you don't need a £10,000 budget to set up an event. we had nothing, and we did it. But I think it's the job of local naturists to find out who is around them, to contact them, talk to them, even if they just meet in the pub one night or in a pub garden and have a chat, and see if there's a venue or an area they can be in, and then set something up. It might be something as simple as just a picnic or a shared walk, but it's an event for naturism.
Yeah.
And we came out of Hawking, and it is something we probably will get back into. We will look for local things. Like, look at the local swims. That's all they've done. Northwest Naturist Swims. I mean, all they've done is basically asked all the local naturists, if we set this up, would you come? And I love seeing it on A&W. There's one or two, I think, in America, those guys. I know there's a guy in Britain trying to set up a massage session, is it a sauna session or something?
Yeah.
I love that. That's what Naturism should be doing. Banding together, trying to find local events, trying to people bring them in. I mean, the one thing we realised is we were in North Wales. We had visitors from Birmingham. We had visitors from the Lake District. We had visitors from Scotland, from Aberdeen. So it's a bit like Wayne's World, if you build it, they will come, But I think,
absolutely, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think we've always got to be thinking about naturism, selling naturism, working for naturism, and I think that, for example, I've said this before, that if you have an adult only venue, then, and that's the way you want to run it, you've got a small venue, you can only fit in 20 people at a time, whatever, and you want to run it that way, then fair enough. But make sure that your website explains that what Naturism really is, that Naturism is a non-sexual, not adult-only lifestyle that promotes, that is family-friendly and everything. And I think that so you can make these decisions, but then also clarify what that decision is and why you made that decision, and then what Naturism is. And I think we've got to get canny about working for Naturism, and there's no reason at all why anyone nowadays should want to argue that there's a case for pretending that Naturism isn't for families and for everyone and stuff like that. And there is just no reasoning behind it anymore. There's no, you can fear things, you can fear protests, whatever, but if you are working for Naturism, you have to sort of like stop for 1 minute, and you have to think, to genuinely work for Naturism, I have to present Naturism the way it should be seen and the way it should be understood, and not worry about it. You're there to protect those people. You're there to ensure that Naturism is protected for everyone and it's passed on to everyone. And you are not going to be attacked for just making these clarifications. People can go and protest at an individual event if that's what is going to happen. But there's never any excuse for us to stop promoting and working for nature in the right way. And that isn't happening enough.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think that's the message that we need to carry forward into 2025. We need to tell people that, you need to get out there. You need to look who's around you. Try put people together, because even if it's only a day out, it's an event, and it's important. And hopefully, try and encourage non-naturists to visit. And time's ticking on here, guys. So we'll bring this one to an end, because I know you've got visitors coming, and I'll let you run away and focus on that. It's a shame that we didn't have her in. She would have loved today, but I mean, she's been caught up in a project that she's been dragged into with her course. So hopefully she'll be back shortly, and she'll be back on the next one. But take care. It's been lovely chatting again, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Yeah, take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Great stuff. And always something to think about at the end of a podcast. It always leaves you pondering and looking, I suppose, in more detail at naturism and ways in which we can improve it. Anna and Steve, as always, big thanks to you guys. We know how incredibly busy you are, and you always take some time out for us to have a great conversation. And again, for those of you who are listening into the podcast, if there's a specific subject you want to have discussed, or there's something that you think is really, really important and we should be talking about it, then please don't hesitate. Message us and we'll try and schedule that part of, whatever it is, into part of one of the conversations that we have with either Anna or Steve or any of the other guests. And again, if you want to come along and join us, it's easy to do. We do it through Skype, and just get onto A&W and send us a message, and we'll arrange a time and a place where we can all sit down together and have a chat. I'll be back again with Rin for the next podcast, where we'll be travelling over to the country of France and having a chat with a really well-known member of A&W. We'll be chatting with Mark. So that's something to look forward in the not too distant future. And thanks to everybody who has taken a few moments out and listening to this podcast. We really, really do appreciate it. Everything we create on A&W is to hopefully inspire and enthuse other naturists. And so we're really grateful that you all tune in and listen along with us. We'll be back soon. Until such time, we'll see you then. Be happy, be naked, and keep smiling.